It's the Y'all Show. Welcome back here as we are ready for kickoff. We've got a very busy weekend if you're a fan of college football, as this is, you could make an argument, the weekend that a lot of teams get up and going. I know some of those SEC programs are sitting here saying, no, wait. We're going to start playing on September 26th. But if you're an ACC fan, guess what? You're already in luck. We've already had one ACC team kickoff. That's the Miami Hurricanes, and they played UAB in Miami Gardens, Florida. The rest of the ACC, they're playing their non-conference weekend, the one weekend that they have, and that's happening for the most part here this weekend. And we welcome back to the program our ACC insider, and he's going to help us break it all down, and that is Jonathan Leifheit. Hello, sir.
Hello there. How are you guys doing?
How are y'all?
How are you doing?
What a wise guy, everybody. Yes,
Yeah.
we're doing good, Jonathan. We got football.
Yeah, we are doing good. It is awesome. As you mentioned, the ACC kicks off. It's kind of split between conference and non-conference this weekend and next weekend. You got about half the teams that are doing conference games and half the team are doing non-conference games, and then it kind of flip-flops a little bit next weekend. And so pretty much non-conference schedule, I think with a couple of exceptions, is pretty much over by the end of next weekend. There'll be a few that kind of trickle in here and there, but by and large, man, it'll be going.
It's going. We're going to kind of walk through this, if you want to call it, first of two not conference versus conference weekends, and then as we get closer to October, it's all conference going forward from that standpoint. Jonathan, before we dive into these matchups and also some of the prognostications for ACC football here in 2020, news of note in your Jonathan Leifheit 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports Digital, your blotter there that you want to share with us that's going on in the Atlantic Coast Conference?
Yeah, I think the biggest news is that the coronavirus, COVID-19, is turning out not to be a factor as we kick off the season. Everybody was really worried about what was going to happen, how many cases, kids were going to go back to school.
Yeah.
We had Notre Dame and North Carolina, I think NC State as well, all went remote after they saw an uptick. But since that time, things have gone back down. I think Florida State's getting a little bit of an uptick, and that's in the student body, not on the football team. Everybody talks about this thing called the bubble, where the teams are living in a bubble. And by and large, it looks to me like the ACC teams, and even from what I hear from other conferences, they're living in the bubble and they're staying relatively free of being infected with the coronavirus.
Now, Jonathan, a member institution in the ACC, the Georgia Institute of Technology, they were in the news because of a big coronavirus outbreak there on the Atlanta campus. Has that subsided at all in the last few days?
Yeah, it actually has. They had it almost seems like every school has had kind of a little outbreak, and then immediately they've done stuff to kind of squash it. As I mentioned, Notre Dame, North Carolina, NC State all went remote. Georgia Tech isolated their students, and then the positive rates for those students has gone way back down. So they're in good shape. I mentioned also Florida State. We saw a little bit of a spike there in their student body, and that I expect that to be under control pretty quickly. So all in all, college kids will be college kids. They're you remember what it was like to be that age where you're pretty much invincible. And a lot of them don't feel that way, and then they get it, and then they're like, oh crap. So then it starts to sit in. So we're kind of in the recovery phase of everybody coming back to school. So by and large, it's looking pretty good. So I think that's really kind of the biggest story, is that the coronavirus is not playing really much of a part in the football proceedings.
And it can't be underestimated how important it was for the ACC, which in a lot of ways could have gone either way. They were getting pressure from the Big Ten and Pac-12. The SEC was going to do their darndest to play football. The ACC, really, as I said, it was at the 50-yard line. Which way are you going to go, Jonathan? And to John Swofford, the departing ACC commissioner, maybe his finest hour as a conference commissioner, was ensuring that there's going to be ACC football here in 2020.
Yeah, they did a really good job of that. And really the vote wasn't, I mean, they did hold a vote, but from what I understand, there was really not much question. The medical felt like they could contain things. They felt like they had a good, set of protocols that would keep everybody safe. If you actually look around, I think across the country, the teams that are on campus and living in that bubble, as I mentioned, are having lower infection rates among their teams than the teams that are not in the bubble. So all in all, you gotta give credit for how the teams have handled it, how they've put in place the protocols and then followed through, because protocols are one thing. Failure, if you don't follow through, it doesn't matter.
Very good point. Jonathan Leifheit, our ACC insider, also with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports Digital, as we're talking all things ACC in this conference report, as we have the official start of what's happening here for ACC football. Now, Jonathan, let's move on from some of the news to some of the prognostications of what's going on in Atlantic Coast Conference football. The preseason poll has come out, and there you're looking at it. The Ramblin' Wreck at 15 in this preseason poll. A little surprising there. And then, again, there's 15 teams stacked up here this year, with Notre Dame added as a conference member in 2020. Jonathan, your thoughts, 1 to 15, on the media's take on what's going to happen here this 2020 season?
Yeah, without a big surprise, everybody knew Clemson was going to be number one. I feel like I'm a little biased because I'm obviously a Georgia Tech fan, but I feel like that's probably a little low. I think there's several teams on that schedule that they could go, but really 1 and 2 are Notre Dame. North Carolina could possibly challenge, I think, for number 2, but I'm not 100% on that. I think then if you look at teams basically 3 through about 7, or maybe about 7, there's not a lot of difference in them. And then again, 8 through 15, I think those teams are all kind of, there's just not a big drop off. And so, and even the pack from that's in 3 to 7 isn't that much better than 8 through 15, that they'll be able to walk through and beat all those teams. So I think they largely got it right. I'm not convinced about Miami. I have questions about Virginia Tech. And I think, probably Virginia will be better than they expect. And I expect Georgia Tech to be better. So, yeah, but by and large, I think they got it right.
All right, Clemson, the overwhelming favorite to walk away once again with a conference championship here. And if it all works out the way everybody's hoping, there will be a championship game there at Bank of America Stadium sometime in December. And perhaps that lucky champion will have a chance to go on and play for a national championship. But there you have it, the preseason poll coming in from ACC pundits. Did you vote on that, Jonathan?
I actually did not. I believe my compatriot Rod McKenzie did. I did not have a chance to do a vote myself.
All right, there you have it. Now let's move on from the preseason poll to the impact freshmen to be on the lookout for in 2020, and this is according to Packer and Durham of the ACC network. And Jonathan, a lot of these, of course, are names that were highly recruited coming out of high school. And here, as we have this opening week, some names to be kind of circling and looking out for on the gridiron here this weekend.
Yeah, and I haven't had a chance to look through, all of these and whatnot. I can tell you that Jeff Sims is likely to get the start at Georgia Tech. I believe he'll be doing there. I look at the Clemson guy and I go,
what
he probably won't have much.
Sims?
Quarterback.
Okay. Or,
so they may be starting a true freshman. Yeah,
Okay.
True freshman on the road in the ACC for his opening game against the team that he decommitted from. Kind of ironic.
Which is Florida State.
Yep, exactly. But the rest of them, I haven't had a chance really to look at a whole lot at the freshmen. Yeah. I probably look at Brian Breesy at Clemson.
He's a defensive player.
Yeah, and you know what? They run so many players out there that it's hard for a true freshman or for a freshman to really make a huge impact. So, I kind of go, well, yeah, maybe, but if he was on another team, perhaps. But other than that, most teams are not going to be relying on freshmen that much. The teams that are, probably a little thinner.
All right. If you have a question or comment here on our ACC report with Jonathan Leifheit, you're certainly welcome to fire away here with us as we are scanning the Facebook page, the Facebook Live broadcast, and anything that you have question-wise, comment-wise, we will certainly welcome that here at our ACC report courtesy of Jonathan Leifheit, 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports Digital. So let's move on now, Jonathan, to the fun. The fun is the fact that we're going to have some good football, some of these conference versus conference matchups starting here this week. And then you have some non-conference versus ACC opponents going on as well. So, Jonathan, let's start things off with a team that a lot of people say just might end up being one of those contenders for the ACC championship game, and that's Mack Brown and the North Carolina Tar Heels. They've got Syracuse, a conference versus conference matchup here this weekend.
Yeah, they'll start out Dino Babers up at Syracuse, coming off a really disappointing 7th season. Of course, two years ago they had that 10-win season, and everybody thought they'd turn the corner. Tommy DeVito's kind of, he's thrown a lot of touchdowns up there, but he just can't seem to get them on the winning track as the quarterback. So he's got some work to do. And then Mack Brown, he's really cranked North Carolina up. They had pretty decent talent up there to begin with, and now they're getting coached a little better. So, and then he's also turned up the recruiting, kind of the recruiting level as well. So I'm not sure that they quite have what it takes to beat out Notre Dame or Florida State, or Clemson, but I think they'll probably challenge at least, but come up short.
All right, and a reminder: in 2019, in Mack Brown's first season back in Chapel Hill, the Heels had a winning season. They went to a bowl game, won in Annapolis, Maryland. So a lot of excitement back for North Carolina football, and the Heels and the Orange getting together this weekend. Moving on, Jonathan, in ACC play, you also have Duke, and they'll be going to the Golden Domers home in the very first conference game in the history of Notre Dame. The Devils and the Irish. That sounds like a weird combo.
Yeah, it does. And even more weird is to hear you say that in a conference game at Notre Dame. So real big. It. Yeah, you did, and it's the truth. And Notre Dame probably is going to have too much for Duke. I'm not sure what Duke's got kind of right now, that how they can find a way to challenge up at Notre Dame. Of course, the crowd won't be a big factor anywhere this year. They'll only be doing piped-in noise and limited capacity. I think most teams are at about 20%. So it probably won't be a crowd factor, but I think Notre Dame's just got too much for them.
So Duke with a transfer, they've got a guy by the name,
Chase
Bryce?
Chase Bryce, exactly. He was the quarterback at Clemson. He's actually the one that led them on a big comeback when I believe it was Trevor Lawrence went, not Trevor Lawrence, but Deshaun Watson went down a couple years ago against Syracuse. Syracuse was primed for the second upset in a row against them, and he led them in a late charge to beat them. So he's got some game experience, but he just wasn't going to get to play with Trevor Lawrence there, so he decided to transfer out, and now he'll be starting at Duke.
Jonathan, I hate to break the news to you, but it actually was Trevor Lawrence in that Syracuse.
It was Trevor Lawrence.
It was 2 years ago. Trevor was a true freshman, and Trevor, remember, he was a second string quarterback. Something had happened to Clemson's first string quarterback, I think, that season. And
he started, and then when they named Trevor Lawrence the starter, he decided to take a redshirt year, and then ended up transferring out. He basically redshirted himself, transferred to another school. I think it was Missouri that ended up with him. His name is escaping me at the moment, but he ended up at Missouri last season.
That's right. That's what I thought. And that was when little old Trevor was a true freshman coming out of North Georgia on the Clemson campus. And I know it seems like 100 years ago, but it was actually only 2 years ago. Remember, Clemson has had a little bit of struggle against Syracuse for whatever crazy reason, even losing to them. And that game in particular, Mr. Bryce comes in off the out of the bullpen and helps guide the Tigers to a victory. And now
Yep.
he'll be guiding the Duke Blue Devils to Notre Dame, and perhaps a very, very big win for David Cutcliffe if that indeed materializes here this weekend. Jonathan, let's
And
move
that was
on.
Kelly. That was Kelly Bryant, by the way.
Kelly Bryant. Okay. Kelly Bryant. A Tiger through and through, Clemson and Missouri. Jonathan, the number 15 in the preseason poll, Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, they're going to go on down to the TP, and Mike Norvell is awaiting as the Florida State Seminoles and Georgia Tech have a conference versus conference matchup, and this ought to be a good one here this weekend.
Yeah, I actually think this will probably be a better matchup than folks think. I think right now Florida State's given 12 points if you're a Vegas bettor, but you have to remember this has been probably if you're a coach taking over a program, this has probably been the worst possible turn of events for an off season that you could ask for, because the one thing that you want is time with your team. And what's the one thing you didn't get this off season? You didn't get spring practice. You got 4 or 5, maybe 6 practices in, if that. And then you kind of had a weird, and that's understated a pretty good bit, preseason, where reps may or may not have been limited, but certainly things have been a lot different. And so they've been a little different on contact, lots of things. So Mike Norvell comes into his first game really kind of with a team that probably hasn't had the time you would really like if you're a first-year coach. And then Georgia Tech comes in with a team that's really improved a lot along the lines. And, it's going to be tough to win in Tallahassee, but I think this game's a little closer than people think.
And this game will be under the bright lights of ABC on Saturday afternoon. I don't know how many lights there at the Doak in the middle of the afternoon in mid-September, but a great opportunity for Coach Norvell as well as Georgia Tech to be on the national stage this weekend. Jonathan, we also have a couple of not-so-exciting non-conference action here entering this weekend to let people know about, and one of those non-conference action features the Govs. That would be Austin Peay out of Clarksville, Tennessee. The Govs will be going to Pitt to take on the Panthers, and believe it or not, the Govs actually already have a game in the rearview mirror. They played several weekends ago in Montgomery, Alabama, had a nail-biting game against Central Arkansas, the alma mater, by the way, of Mike Norvell. He was a wide receiver there for the Bears in the early 2000s. But, yeah, Austin Peay, the defending OVC champions, they're going to be strapping it up with the Pitt Panthers here in this ACC opening weekend. And then, Jonathan, the other game is going to be taking place at Cardinal Stadium in Louisville, where Louisville and those Hilltoppers, the Bobby Petrino Bowl, if you will, as Western Kentucky and the U of L get together on the gridiron here Saturday. Any thoughts on these sort of not so exciting games before we get to a really good one taking place in Winston-Salem?
Yeah, Austin Peay always has my favorite cheer of all time. Let's go Peay.
Yeah. Do you need to go Peay?
No, I don't. I'm good.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, I always like that. Yeah, that's probably going to be a cakewalk for Pitt in that one. Western Kentucky will probably put up a good fight against Louisville, but that'll be another kind of one of those. It'll probably go close at half and then watch Louisville pull away. That type of deal. I just don't see them hanging with them, but maybe I'm wrong.
Jonathan, I was being a little bit of a wise guy, but have we heard or do we have any clue what Bobby Petrino's doing, former Western Kentucky and, of course, Louisville head football coach?
Well, I really haven't heard anything. I don't know what he's doing. As far as I know, he's riding a motorcycle somewhere.
Oh, man, that was low. Bobby, if you're out there, we want to hear from you. Obviously, he was at times a very, very good college football coach. Maybe not so in the NFL, and it didn't turn out well in the second time around at the U of L. But, yes, it's Louisville and those Hilltoppers from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Jonathan, I know you know what's made in Bowling Green.
Yeah, there's a little bit of whiskey going on there.
No, not in Bowling Green. They make Corvettes in Bowling Green.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the home of the National Corvette Museum. And
that's right. I remember when they had the incident at the museum where there was a sinkhole opened up in the middle of the museum.
I didn't hear about that one, but I know you have an affinity for the automobile. So
I'm a
there you have it.
Chrysler guy.
Oh,
So,
really? Chrysler?
yeah. Yeah,
What's
I
the
have two
nicest car made by Chrysler?
probably the Imperial back in the day.
Well, what about right now?
Right now, I'm kind of partial to the Hellcat cars, the Challenger, with that 700 horsepower Hellcat motor in it.
Hmm. Something tells me you also like, this is going back a few years, a Model A.
I do like a model to own one, as a matter of fact.
One in a really nice gold tint, if you're able to buy that.
Probably true. Although my version was going to have a Hemi in it, so.
Okay, all right. Jonathan, we've got one more conference game going on here on this opening weekend of ACC football, and it's the number one team in the nation. Dabo Swinney, Trevor Lawrence, and the Clemson Tigers are packing their bags, and they're going to the bank. I guess they've renamed the stadium there in Winston-Salem. Is it now Truist Field? That's right, because BB&T
Yep.
merged with SunTrust. Truist Field is the new stadium in Winston-Salem, and it's the Deacons and the Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, and I don't see Clemson having too much trouble with Wake Forest. Wake is certainly an improved program since Clausen's been there, but they just don't have the firepower to hang with the Tigers.
They don't. Yeah, look at this firepower on display right now. Is that Travis Etienne, number 9 there, scooting down the sideline? I mean, Clemson, that was a game, I guess, going back a few years there. And there's Trevor firing on the ground, in the air, defense there, great Clemson defense. Always finding ways, except for what the buzzsaw they ran into against LSU in that championship game last year. But, man.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was beating LSU last year.
Yeah. Other than LSU, Clemson for sure would have beaten anybody else in the country in 2019. And they're poised to do it all again, Jonathan.
Yeah, that they are. They are definitely a really good, really deep team, and they're well coached and loaded with talent.
Loaded with talent here, and the upstate of South Carolina is going to have to wait 1 week, though, as Clemson is going to have their first game at home the following weekend, September 16, when the Citadel Bulldogs march into Death Valley looking for their second consecutive year of beating a ACC member institution. It's going to be a little bit tougher here in 2020 with Clemson last year with Georgia Tech. But, yes, Clemson on the road at Wake Forest. Is this going to be much of a game here this weekend with Wake? Is Wake going to put up any kind of fight?
They'll put up a fight for about a quarter. Clemson will pull away.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah,
well, Wake Forest.
Pretty much.
There's your hate material. If you need to put something up in the locker room, Jonathan Leifheit, he's going to share his email address, and y'all can send all that.
I'm sure that I live on everybody's bulletin boards.
Yeah, and that's where you can send all the hate to Jonathan Leifheit. And there we have it, friends. That is week number 1 of ACC football. As we said, you've got several games going on featuring ACC versus ACC matchups, and then a few boring games, if you will, but ought to be fun. Again, kudos to everybody involved with getting this season up and going. It's been a very rough, let's be honest, 9 months, 8 months, 7 months, whatever it's been, and conferences have decided, like the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and some of the other conferences like the Mountain West, they chickened out. They're not playing football, but the ACC is playing, at least as of right now, and we'll get through this first weekend. And I know a lot of people, it may not be quite what it ought to be, but it's sure better than nothing, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to be a relief just to kind of just to watch something and hear about something other than that deadgum virus. I'm so tired of hearing about it. It's just, not even funny. And now we'll finally get there, and we'll have something to take our minds off of all the things that are going on. There's just so much right now. And football will be a much needed distraction from everything that's been happening.
We've had the coronavirus that's certainly preoccupied us. We've had presidential politics, which has preoccupied it, and our brain just needs something totally different. And I'm sorry, Major League Baseball and the NBA bubble just don't quite do it. But college football, now that'll do it. Jonathan,
no doubt.
Thank you very much for coming on. Great to see you again. And for all the ACC fans out there, enjoy this first weekend of college football. And we'll be right back here with Jonathan in the coming days to kind of walk through the rest of this 2020 season. Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
All right. And the Y'all Show continues after this break.